So, hi everyone. Before starting, can you give me one big round of applause, please? Okay, so I have one question for you. Đám giỗ. What do these two words remind you of? Eating? Drinking? Meeting cousins? Okay. Or waking up early? Actually, my family has it all. Since I was young, I've had to attend the đám giỗ of my grandfather every single year. And I don't know why. I don't know when it first took place. But at that day, I have to wake up very early with my mom, helping her with the meals. Does it sound familiar? And, well, during the event, my aunts and my mom went behind the scenes. My uncles had already taken their seats, ate, drank, and left everything for the women to clean. It was hard at that time to figure out what was happening and the real meaning of the day exactly. Unlike wedding or birthday, when you have something to celebrate, right? What do I have to supposed to celebrate in a đám giỗ exactly? Or a better question should be, why should we care about long-held traditions? And is it necessary to find out about our ancestors? Remember this question because we'll answer it during the speech. So, about my grandfather. 3 years ago, I learned about his story during a tomb cleaning with my family. He was very knowledgeable about traditional Confucian learning and hand script. But in his last years, he was drunk every afternoon. When he was drunk, he would joyfully chant lines of Lục Vân Tiên and Kiều Nguyệt Nga, a very famous classic at that time. We learned it in secondary school. And what fascinated people the most about him was not his singing, but his ability, his willingness to speak up. At regional meetings, when everyone stayed silent, he would be the first to raise his hand. Not once, but again and again. So much that even the local committee chef became so annoyed by him. And everyone still listened because his questions were beautifully delivered. Wait, was it my dad? Because I still remembered attending parents' meetings with my dad when he will find a chance to raise his opinions and his questions. Not once, but again and again. I was at that time so embarrassed that sometimes I just want to ask, Dad, why did you ask so many questions? But then one day, in a literature classroom, nobody answered. My teacher smiled awkwardly. And when I realized that, my hand was in the air. Sometimes not because I wanted attention, not because I knew the answer exactly, but because somehow silence means embarrassment for the teacher. And well, through my father, my grandfather, and me, 3 generations, yet one single common ground. We're all willing to raise our opinions, our hands in meetings. And then I think that we've inherited some habits long before we realized we were learning them. And science tells us something about this. When we grow up, we rely on friends for things like music, K-pop, for slangs or fashion, personal matters. But for parents, we still look at how they resolve problems that we cannot see from our friends. Some matters like how they navigate their relationship issues, how they view education, how they regulate their emotions. And we do not observe or notice those behavior but also take in what they do by considering what is socially normal. My grandfather raised his hands, and everyone listened. My father saw it, and he considered it normal to do. That's why he repeated it in parents' meetings. When it comes to me, I also saw my dad do it repeatedly and saw that nobody rejected his action. So I think it's normal. It's not unusual to raise hands in meetings. Well, that's why we have some family like this. But, a very, very big but. Generational gap is not a thing that is easily overcome by just knowing about our ancestors. Let me tell you about one generational gap. Do you have a boyfriend yet? No, Mom. Love is not for me. What? At this age? It's your loss not to have a boyfriend. Why always love? Love all the time. Please. That's how a friend of mine told me about her constant tension with her mom. Until recently, I heard about her mother's story. She told everyone about how she really loved a person in her teens. Very, very passionately. But she felt devastated and frustrated when her mom didn't allow her to love. And that's why she forced her daughter to love, to express her love to the one that she has feelings for, so that she would not experience such depression. That's when I think knowing about your parents' upbringing, learning about shared family values does not change your agreement with the parents immediately. It doesn't change your attitudes toward your parents' action. But perhaps it will shift your perspectives on how they behave. You will look at how they behave in a different perspective. Well, I call it tìm hiểu để thấu hiểu. For example, why do parents always force us to do something? Well, perhaps they used to be deprived of that thing during their childhood. Or why do they rarely say I love you to us? Perhaps they find open emotional expression unusual or less natural because they used to be treated that way during their childhood by their parents. So you may ask, so what? How about traditions? Why do you have to take time learning about them? Well, correct. Traditions do not give you money, do not give you health, do not give you tangible values immediately. But let's face it, it gives you a very powerful belief that your ancestors are alongside us and will support us in every journey. Well, remember, before important events like exams, for example, what do we usually say to ourselves? We hope for ông bà phù hộ, ông bà độ. We hope for their blessings. And actually, before this speech, I also lit an incense for my grandfather to reassure that I can do it. And I think an action as simple as lighting an incense for ancestors will keep your ông bà, your ancestors, in your mind and by your soul. And that is when you can understand the profound value of traditions. We do not see only incense or smoke or noise, but we also see the meaning behind those actions. We know why we have to do that for us and for our family. However, back to Damyo. Since I was young, I still see my uncles had already taken their seats, while my aunts and my mom were preparing meals behind the scenes. I just thought, that's how adults did things. It's how people usually did. But when I grow up, it would be better. I think it would be better that both men and women would prepare the meals together. And everyone is allowed to enjoy the full meaning of the day. That no one will complain about the workload after the event. It will be better, much happier. And then, yet as young people, we are the change that we want to see. And my approach, I help my mom and my aunts with the cleaning task and help them prepare the meals, as you can see. And I also encourage young cousins to bring the meals to the worship house and also serve as waiters during the event. I can assert that as a man of a future family, this is exactly the kind of family that I want to build on. A family rooted in traditions, yet adapt to modern age. Well, to end the speech, this is my bottom line. Young people and traditions are not opposites. We grow up with traditions, and we also are the next chapter of them. We understand traditions not to repeat blindly, but to preserve what is worth keeping, to challenge what is no longer serves, no longer relevant to the modern age, and also leave the better for future generations. Thank you.